What specific laws should be passed? How do we make practical progress? For example, here in the States, we need this thing called shared parenting. In the UK, the family court record should be public, not secret, and so on. At some point, we have to start fixing things instead of just describing the problem and start fixing things. Look, I totally agree. We need to move at some point from talking about fixing things to actually fixing things. But if we're talking about changing laws with shared parenting and banning circumcision and fixing the gender sentencing gap and numerous other issues which affect males right across the Western world, then the very first thing we need to do is to get the public on our side and to spread public awareness. The government will change these things if the public demands that they do, or enough of the public demand that they do. But that doesn't happen overnight. Let me give you an example. Let's look at the LGBT rights movement, which started back in 1972. Now, the minute they started to demand things like gay marriage and to stop discrimination and equal rights with straight people, the government didn't immediately give them those things. It took decades of changing public opinion before the government listened, because I know a lot of people see the government as this authoritarian monster which controls everything, but in reality, in a democracy democracies throughout the West, the government is there at the whim of the people, and the politicians know that, and they will change their opinion depending on what way the wind's blowing. If people demand that gay marriage should be made legal, then the politicians will cater to that, or at least the ones who cater to it will be voted into government, or more likely to be voted into government. If, on the other hand, that public opinion changed and 90% of people were against gay marriage, then those politicians who were against gay marriage would be more likely voted in, and it would be more likely to pass. Public opinion holds a lot of sway when it comes to politics in the West. Politics is basically a popularity game, and the personal opinions of a particular politician don't really matter that much compared to them saying what is necessary to get public opinion on their side. So you'll see politicians flip-flop. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Hillary come out and say that she's for gay marriage now, whereas a few years back she was saying that she didn't think it was appropriate or something like that? I can't remember off the top of my head. It was something like that. But she's definitely changed her opinion on it based on the change in public opinion. So we basically need to do the same thing. We need to spread awareness, make the average citizen aware of men's issues and care about men's issues. And once that starts to happen, then governments will start to listen and they'll start to change laws. You'll see things like shared parenting come in. The big problem with this is that feminism has a huge head start on us. They've been doing this for a very long time now, and they're very good at it. Well, I think maybe it's reached the point where they've become a victim of their own success, because now they're campaigning for things like air conditioning is somehow male oppression, or farting is male privilege, or they're condemning a scientist because of a shirt he wore, or they're criticising the way men sit on public transport, and all this nonsense shit, which isn't about real issues or human rights at all. And I think that's their Achilles heel. If you spread the misinformation that only women are victims of domestic violence, most people will listen to that and they'll believe it and they'll feel sympathy. But when the feminist movement starts talking about men sitting wrong on a train, and that becomes their big issue, then people will start to look at them as crazy. And I think the men's rights movement over the last couple of years has gained a lot of ground. I've seen the changes just in the last 3 years from feminist journalists who used to write articles. They used to say, oh look, men don't need men's rights, they're not oppressed, they're like kings, they have everything, men don't have issues, and all this bullshit. They just dismiss away any issue as being non-existent because only women have issues, right? But now they've shifted their position. Now they say things like, yes, it's true that men do have issues, but the men's rights movement is the wrong organisation to do anything about it. The only group that can do anything about it is feminism. So they've shifted their stance from men's rights issues not existing to actually being problems, and only feminism being the solution. To me, this is a fairly big victory, because now they've admitted that we do actually have issues, and those issues need to be addressed. That's a huge step forward in the right direction, and it shows that we've gained ground. Now, it's only the start. It's still a long way to go, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And as awareness grows, as more people become aware of these issues, then over time governments will start to listen. There's a lot of men out there who are fed up and frustrated with being demonised, losing their kids, constant anti-male bullshit in the media. I mean, it's only a matter of time before enough people say, fuck this. Unfortunately, though, a lot of our time as men's rights activists is spent countering the feminist propaganda, which is stopping us from spreading public awareness and moving forward. It's ironic that they claim that they care about men's issues. Well, it's ironic that they've started to claim that they care about men's issues. I mean, just look earlier this year when the Mad Max controversy came out. There were online publications everywhere claiming that men's rights activists were boycotting Mad Max because they didn't like strong female characters and all this other bullshit, which was all just made up crap, all based on an article by one non-MRA. It was convenient for them to condemn the whole movement and to paint us all as backwards, women-hating, misogynist idiots, basically. They use their positions to try to embarrass us and make us look like fools. Yet, strangely, when a UK charity, which was set up to help men who were victims of sexual assault, lost all its funding from the government, there wasn't this same condemnation from all these publications. They didn't suddenly come out with headlines across the board saying, how terrible this is. Now it is true that there were a couple of articles in some major publications, but nowhere near as many as the Mad Max controversy. So, I mean, what does that tell us? It tells us that they're more willing to spread anti-MRA bullshit than to actually address real men's issues. They don't really give a shit about men's issues. In fact, one of the publications that did mention the charity losing its funding, if you read the article, it's really just using that as an excuse to bash MRAs. So, the whole feminist thing of, men have issues too, although it's a victory in a sense that they've shifted their position and that they're actually acknowledging our position now, our issues. It's very evident that they just don't give a shit about those issues. They don't really care. They're only doing it so they don't come across as the bigots that they are. So I've been doing the propaganda of toxic feminism for over a year now, and I've noticed while doing that there are arguments which continually come up, the same ones over and over again. You know, the false associations where they, you know, claim that Elliot Rodger or Rouge V or someone like that is an MRA and use that to falsely condemn the entire movement and everyone in it. Or, you know, they say that we want to go back to the 1950s, which is, you know, more straw man bullshit. Another one is what I have started to refer to as the Paul Elam 3. I don't know how many articles Paul has written over the years, probably hundreds. Out of all those articles, they tend to focus on 3 articles in particular, and certain quotes from these 3 articles, and they use this to condemn everyone in the movement. And ironically, one of those articles was in response to a Jezebel article, which was making fun of male victims of domestic abuse. No one ever mentions that. Not one person who has ever mentioned the Paul Elam article, the Bash a Violent Bitch article. Not one of them has ever mentioned that it's in response to a Jezebel article making fun of male victims of domestic abuse. Not a single one. In fact, some of the feminists have even gone so far as to remove the word violent. So they've turned Bash a Violent Bitch, which is about responding to being a victim of domestic abuse, to basically self-defense, and turned it into what would seem to be just an attack on women. I mean, bash a violent bitch is very different than bash a bitch. Bash a bitch just seems like Paul's advocating for, you know, men to go out and randomly be violent towards women simply because they're women, as opposed to defending yourself from a woman who's violent towards you. But unfortunately, because of all this feminist propaganda, we in the men's rights movement have to spend a great deal of our time defending ourselves and playing the public relations game as opposed to getting things done. But that PR game, I think, is the first battleground, and if we start winning there, which I think we are, then the other things will eventually fall into place.
Hilarious.
So back to this men's rights conference that this wonderful Bash a Bitch Month author put together.